Hey, what is up, mortals? It is SBurkeVA here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 19 of What If Deku Was the Shield Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. Izuku began to walk over to Shinzo the moment midnight declared the start of the match. He moved calmly, his head slightly downcast just in case his opponent needed prolonged eye contact to use his quirk. You know, once they label you a villain, that's it. You're stuck with it for life. The shield user clenched his fists at his opponent's words as his arms trembled. Know what's really unfair? I've never used my quirk on a civilian, and people all thought I was going to be a villain. But you have this powerful, flashy quirk and an easy road to becoming a hero. And what do? Mess it all up by attacking that girl. Tell me, how did it feel when you lashed out at her? Did it feel good? Did you enjoy it? What? Nothing to say? Still, Izuku remained silent, his eyes stinging from the words that Shinzo was beginning to shout. His breathing was beginning to grow a little ragged. Glancing up and looking through his green bangs, Izuku saw that the purple-haired teen had not moved at all. He was just standing there, looking a little worried. Had Izuku been right that there was some sort of verbal component to make the brainwashing work? Was he just saying that because he believed he would get a rise out of the shield user? Now Shinzo was beginning to shout loudly. What, got nothing to say for yourself? Not even trying to defend your actions? Come on, you stupid villain. Izuku was now almost in front of Shinzo, with his opponent now unable to hide how nervous he was. Pulling back a fist, the brainwashing teen punched Midoriya right in his face with all the might he could muster, causing a loud crack to echo through the stadium. However, Izuku reacted as though a light breeze had struck him while his opponent doubled over while cradling his injured hand. Damn it. You know no one wants you here. You're never gonna be a hero, so just give up. Shinzo managed to stand up straight, punching Izuku with his other hand only to receive the same results. It felt like he was punching a brick wall, coated in the hardest metal in the world. But even with two hands that felt like he had broken several bones, he continued to punch the green-haired teen over and over again. When his fists hurt too much, Shinzo then tried kicking the teen as hard as he could, hoping that he would be weaker there. That, however, proved to be as effective as his punches. The brainwasher even tried lunging forward, biting Izuku in the shoulder in the hopes that he would cry out. Yet his teeth seemed unable to even pierce Midoriya's skin. And while he did all this, Shinzo continued accusing the 1A student who just stood there with his head lowered. After a minute or two of this, Shinzo's voice became hoarse as he doubled over once again. His hands felt numb now, and he could feel his sweat rolling down his nose. When he looked up, he saw that Midoriya had finally pulled back a fist ready to strike him. But as he did that, Shinzo could finally see the look on his opponent's face. Could finally see the pained look in Izuku's eyes as well as the tears running down his face, before the fist connected with Shinzo's face. It took a moment before Midnight announced that Izuku Midoriya was the winner of the match, earning a massive choir of boos throughout the stadium. The green-haired teen did his best to ignore them, keeping his head down as he walked toward the gate and out of sight of everyone as Present Mike began to announce the next two combatants. Since he hadn't been hurt, Izuku was about to head up to where the rest of Class 1A was sitting before hesitating. He looked down at what he was wearing, seeing the mask covering his clothes and feeling stuff still in his hair. And when he looked down at himself, he thought about all the cold shoulders he would receive from most of his class. And as for his friends, I don't want them to see me like this. Knowing Raftalia, Kirishima, Sue, and Uraraka, they'll be more focused on trying to make me feel better instead of their own matches. No doubt Ida will then chastise me, saying I'm distracting them. I'll just stay down here and wash up. Then I'll rest until Raftalia comes down. With that thought in mind, Izuku began heading to the boys' locker rooms that he could clean himself up. And by the time he got there, Midoriya heard over the speaker system that Todoroki had ended his match against Shiozaki in an instant as he had encased her in ice so massive that it was larger than the stadium. A bit on the overkill side. Sighing heavily, Izuku entered the room as Uraraka and Tokage were called to the arena floor. It was a shame since the shield user had wanted to wish her luck as well as see the full capabilities of the 1B girl. Still, he just continued to clean himself off while doing his best to listen in on the fight. Something that was, sadly, one-sided. Thanks to President Mike's colorful commentary, Tokage had the ability to split herself into many different parts and maneuver them through the air, allowing her greater mobility in the fight. Not only that, but she could also attack from multiple angles. Even if Uraraka could grab a hold of one of these pieces, it probably wouldn't affect them much. In the end, the pieces just overwhelmed the girl before dragging her out of the ring. The next round began as Izuku began to pull out the various litter pieces caught in his hair. This was one match that the hero fanboy really regretted not being in the stands to watch, as it sounded far more even. He knew that Kirishima was strong, but judging by the description, so was his opponent, Shishida of Class 1B. Present Mike was going wild as he began to describe the blows each one was packing and how wild it was getting. In the end, the defense of the hardening quirk user was simply too much for the Beast Teen, allowing Class 1A another victory. By the time Izuku had finished drying his hair, the match between Sue and Tokoyami had begun. Hearing this, the green-haired teen quickly headed toward the door of the locker room, hoping that he could at least catch a glimpse of the fight. That hope was instantly dashed, for as Izuku opened the door, he found none other than Shinzo standing there. For a moment, neither teen spoke, with the only noise being the roaring of the crowd above them. I went to where your class was sitting looking for you. Obviously, you weren't there, so I decided to check the bathrooms and stuff. Looks like I found you. As Izuku remained silent, Shinzo averted his eyes while scratching the back of his head. Guess I'm one of the last people you want to see right now. Not surprising after, well, I just wanted to say that what I said back there was uncalled for. It all left a bad taste in my mouth even while I was saying it. I just wanted to win that match so badly. Show everyone how powerful my quirk was, and that I had what it takes to be a hero. Guess I have a long way to go. Swallowing hard, Shinzo turned and began to walk away. Anyway, I said what I came here to say. Good luck in your next match. Izuku didn't say anything at first, but after the purple-haired teen took a few more steps, he turned to look at the other's back.
Shinzo! Sorry about your hands. And legs. I hope you didn't hurt them too much.
The brainwashing teen turned a little while holding up one of his hands, showing that it was fine, even wiggling his fingers as if to prove it. All healed up, so don't worry about it. Besides, I was the one who did this to myself, though I did get some bruises after the match. Courtesy of that old maid. Don't know if Midnight told her or something, but Recovery Girl wasn't happy with me. Oh, and speaking of her, I almost forgot. She said after I apologized to you that you should head up to her office for some treatment. At that, Izuku smiled slightly.
Thanks, but I don't think I need it. I didn't get hurt at all, not even when someone threw that bottle at me.
Surprisingly, Shinzo shook his head before giving Izuku a sympathetic look with his tired eyes. Midoriya, even if you're not in physical pain, you got hurt. With that, Shinzo walked away without saying another word. This video was sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you're from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99. This deal is for a limited time, and thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Izuku did not go to Recovery Girl's office, instead heading toward the hallway leading to the arena. Like he had told Shinzo, he wasn't hurt in a way that the elder hero could heal. So what would be the point in going to her office? Besides, he had been dealing with people thinking the worst of him for a while now, so what if there were just more people doing it, actively hating him from above? He could handle it, just like he had been. Now, if he wanted to be a good hero, then he needed to handle it. He could do this, right? Shaking his head, he reached the gateway just in time to see Tokoyami being declared the winner. Sadly, he didn't get a chance to see Sue as she was taken away on robotic stretchers, which would bring her right to Recovery Girl. Not wanting to miss another match, Izuku moved down the hallway just far enough so that he could be reasonably sure that no one in the crowd could see him, but he could see the arena. There he sat with his back to the wall and his arms hugging his legs, waiting for the next match to begin. He didn't have to wait long as Ashido came running down the corridor a few minutes later, clearly in a rush. So much so that she didn't seem to notice Izuku at all. And for right now, he was okay with that. The pink-skinned girl's match against Hananuki made Izuku wish that he was up in the stands, seeing everything happen with a bird's-eye view. According to Mike, Hananuki's quirk was softening, which he used to turn the hard stone floor of the arena into something more akin to quicksand. No doubt he planned on making it so that Ashido couldn't skate around on her acid and trap her, making her unable to continue the match. This plan might have worked had the pink-skinned girl not gotten close enough so that she could fling balls of acid right at him. It was a weak acid, of that Izuku was sure, but strong enough so that when it struck his face, Hananuki accidentally rolled out of bounds in pain. Soon after being declared the winner, a more relaxed Ashido walked down the hallway. And this time, she didn't fail to miss seeing her green-haired classmate sitting there on the ground. Her eyes seemed to widen in surprise as she rushed over to him.
Midoriya, were you sitting there the entire time? Oh my god, I totally didn't see you there. Wait, why didn't you come sit with the rest of the class after your match?
Izuku didn't stand, instead remaining seated there, curled up into his little ball as he looked up at her.
After my last match, didn't really want to deal with, stuff.
The last part was slightly mumbled, but judging by the way Ashido averted her gaze, told him that she had heard it clearly.
Listen, Midoriya, did you find out about the class petition?
Silence was her answer as Izuku lowered his head, resting it on his knees.
Yeah, I'm guessing you did. I mean, Mr. Aizawa was pretty mad about it, and you did resign the next day. Well, this might not mean much right now, but I just wanted you to know that I didn't sign it.
That got Izuku's attention. Faster than Midnight's whip, the teenage boy's head snapped up to look at Ashido.
You didn't? But why? Because of what you did in the USJ. I haven't forgotten what Kiri told me about that day. About how helpless he felt stuck inside that pile of sludge and unable to breathe. He even admitted just how terrified he was, hoping that someone would be able to save him before he died. And that person was you. Not Sue, not Mr. Aizawa, not All Might, and certainly not any of our upper classmates. It was you. So until I'm proven wrong, I'm willing to trust and believe that you're innocent.
Then Ashido gave her classmate a worried look.
Midoriya, are you crying?
Izuku blinked at that, a hand reaching up to touch his face. It was true, he was crying. Somehow, at some moment, tears had begun to roll down his face at a surprising pace. They just kept rolling like two small rivers instead of the normal explosive Midoriya tears.
Oh, when did this happen? Hand won't stop shaking.
The acidic alien looked down at the shield user to see that indeed his hand, which he had risen to wipe away his tears, was shaking almost uncontrollably. But what worried his classmate even more was Izuku's expression. The green-haired teen was still smiling awkwardly, yet his eyes were wide with a look in them that unnerved her. For a moment, Ashido was afraid, though not for herself. Rather, for him. Just then, footsteps were heard coming down the hallway. Quickly wiping away his tears with the sleeve of his gym uniform, Izuku stood up and seemed to collect himself just in time to see Raftalia approaching them. Upon seeing her green-haired friend, the Tanuki girl's eyes widened before rushing over to him. The next thing Izuku knew was that he was enveloped in a tight, warm hug.
Izuku, where were you? If you hadn't shown up by the time I got back from my match, I was going to call Philo so we could both start looking for you. I'm fine, really.
Raftalia pulled away, her hands still holding onto her friend's shoulders while giving him a deadpanned expression that screamed she didn't believe him in the slightest. But before she could voice this, Present Mike's voice boomed over the speakers, telling her to report to the arena. Raftalia gasped at the announcement, her eyes shifting toward the exit before returning to her friend. Her face then took on a more determined presence while her eyes seemed to steel themselves. Then, as she opened her mouth to say that she was going to forfeit, Ashido interrupted her.
Go on, I'll stay here and keep an eye on Midoriya until you win your match.
Upon hearing that, Raftalia blinked before giving the pink-skinned girl a relieved and thankful smile. Then, after hugging Izuku one more time, she made her way to the arena where the crowd began to cheer for her.
All right, let me hear you all give a big shout-out to the sword of Class 1A's Sword and Shield duo, Raftalia. However, she's going to have to leave her blade sheathed for this event as she tangles with the hidden dagger of 1B, Togaru Kamakiri. Seems a little unfair if you ask me.
The form she submitted to bring her sword in was rejected. However, I am interested in seeing what she can do without it. Down on the arena stage, Raftalia stared at her mantis-like opponent while tuning out the loud cheering of the crowd.
Begin!
With the crack of Midnight's whip, both students went into action. Raftalia raised her hands up into the air looking like she was holding a sphere, while Kamakiri began to race toward her. The crowd gasped as blades came out of the mutant teen's forearms, ready to cut down his opponent and send her to Recovery Girl.
Fast light! From Raftalia's hands came a bright light that caused Kamakiri to wince in pain as he felt his vision blur. Yet that lasted only for a moment, and when it cleared, he could see that Raftalia was still standing there, in the exact same pose with the exact same expression on her face.
Do you really think that tired old trick was going to work?
Turning around, Kamakiri saw that there was another Raftalia almost right behind him with a look of surprise on her face. Smirking to himself at having foiled her sneak attack, Kamakiri changed course to slash across the Tanuki girl's chest. But as soon as the blade made contact, his eyes widened in surprise as he felt no resistance, like he was cutting air. A sudden blow to the back of the head caused the mantis teen to fall to the ground, nearly knocking him out there and then. Yet he managed to roll over and get up onto his feet as he realized that he had been tricked. The Raftalia he had dismissed had, in fact, been the real one. She'd tricked him into turning his back toward her, but it wasn't enough to take him out. No. Kamakiri lunged toward Raftalia with more blades coming out of his body. On his arms, hands, legs, and even one on his back. Despite the ringing in his ears, he slashed at the brown-haired girl wildly and relentlessly. Yet none of his attacks landed as she dodged them all with grace, her long hair flowing this way and there as she avoided everything. Then, after a failed swipe to her shoulder, Raftalia just vanished. Before Kamakiri could process this, a devastatingly powerful kick connected to his abdomen, causing spit to fly out of the teen's mouth. As he fell to the ground, a final blade erupted out of his stomach near where he had been struck to give Raftalia a nasty cut across her leg. Not like it would have helped him much, as he landed on the ground with a thud and was knocked out cold. After inspecting the fallen student from 1B, Midnight pointed her whip at the 1A girl.
Kamakiri is unable to continue. The winner of this match is Raftalia.
From his spot, Izuku watched as Raftalia was taken away by robots to be treated by Recovery Girl. While he was disappointed that he wouldn't be able to see her right away, he was more than overjoyed to know that she had won her match. And he knew that a wound like that wouldn't take long to be healed up at all before her next match. Speaking of which,
out of the way, Deku.
Without looking behind him, Izuku moved to the side as Bakugo walked past both him and Ashido with that all-too-familiar scowl on his face. With his hands in his pockets, Kachan gave Izuku a brief glance that caused his brows to furl slightly before looking away.
Deku, you better not lose to that worthless icy hot extra. Defeat his worthless ass so that you make it to the final. Then I'll crush you as payback for what you did to me in the battle trial. Got it?
Yeah. At that, Bakugo's scowl deepened before he spat on the floor. Nothing more was said as he headed out toward the field of battle. Izuku watched as two blonde teens took to the arena. On one side was a scowling Bakugo who just seemed to radiate anger that the crowd could feel. On the other side was Pony Tsunotori, an American teenage girl with long blonde hair and horns coming out of her head. Unlike Kachan, she seemed excited and happy to be there as she waved to the crowd. It really didn't take long for there to be a crowd favorite. When Midnight signaled for the match to start, Bakugo raced toward Pony, ready to deliver his famous starting blow. A blow that never came as Tsunotori lowered her head and began to fire a rapid stream of horns from her head. Bakugo tried to deflect them out of his path with an explosion, but that didn't stop nearly all of them. In fact, the dust cloud obscured his vision, making things worse as more horns kept flying out of the smoke. After receiving a few gashes, the explosive blonde used his quirk to propel himself out of the line of fire. But if he thought he was safe, Bakugo would have to think again as two of Tsunotori's horns began flying after him like guided missiles. It continued like this for a while, Bakugo dodging a seemingly endless stream of horns while one pair followed him around. Sweat began to pour down the ashen blonde's body while his frustration at the situation began to reach its peak. Veins began to bulge in his arms while the teen gritted his teeth, pointing both arms right at the horned girl. Die! That scream, a massive explosion that rocked the entire stadium, erupted from the palms of Bakugo's hands. It was like he had managed to fire off several of the same explosion he had tried to use during the battle trial at once, and without the support gear. This massive attack was more than enough to catch his opponent off guard, sending Pony out of the arena and crashing into the stadium wall with so much force that she became embedded in it. With that, Bakugo was declared the winner, and the first round of the tournament was over. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Meals, Adam Zagel, Zill, XAV Beat 03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toei Acosta, Rob the King, Sithlord 906, CF2364, and Knuckles, Rimuo Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling,
We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. And lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.